All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Virginia and U.S. history. So, today we're going to be looking at the prejudices and discrimination that would happen after the Reconstruction time period. And so, late 19th century, early 20th century. And this is going to get us into the Jim Crow era, as we will see who Jim Crow was and what it all means. All right. So, the main thing that you really need to know here is this whole lesson today is about the attempt of the South to reclaim the antebellum or the pre Civil War social order of things, where it is, whites above African Americans, that whole dynamic that there was socially before the Civil War. It's trying to reclaim that. So, getting into it, Reconstruction is going to fall short of accomplishing the main goals that were set forward for it. We're seeing little to no economic gains for many of the newly freed African Americans. Political gains that occurred were temporary, so it might be like a one term type of thing for any African Americans who won a political office. Reconstruction did not guarantee equal rights. And the state governments of the South are going to find loopholes in the 14th and 15th Amendments and are going to start passing discriminatory laws. Okay? So we're going to be taking a look at some of these things now. Jim Crow was a fictional character, a fictional, like, singing minstrel type character who would become very heavily associated with the Black Codes, which are those discriminatory laws that would limit the abilities of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, the Reconstruction Amendments, the ones that guaranteed freedom to African Americans, the ones that gave them citizenship, the one that gave them the rights to vote. So that is how these Black Codes, they become known as the Jim Crow laws, because of this super stereotypical caricature of an African American person that was like the symbol of what people thought of as the uneducated you know type of situation that they were trying to keep the African American population at with these laws. All right. So a lot of these laws would limit property ownership, regulating the type of jobs that they could do, typically meaning manual labor, denying certain legal rights in court, having curfews that, you could only be out from, 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening type of thing. Corporal punishment being more something that just stays with punishment for crimes. Basically just anything they could do to limit the abilities of the African American population in the South. That is what these laws' purpose was. And the discrimination and segregation would only intensify in the South due to these laws. And it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of hard work to undo the wrongs of these laws. So, we're going to see the separation in public places, to where we get those classic images from that lead up to the civil rights era, where it's whites only on businesses, or like we have here, the drinking fountains, the white drinking fountain, the colored drinking fountain, the white bathroom, the colored bathroom, the white park bench, the colored park bench. All of those types of images start to become common practice during the beginning of the Jim Crow laws time period, late 1800s. And it will continue all the way up into, the 1960s. Now, some of the worst things that happen are the intimidation and flat out crimes committed against the African American community. We're going to see lynchings where it's just a mob rule, where they just go out and they would, like, they would find someone who might have maybe not even actually offended somebody, might have just been, just talking, a African American person just talking to a white person, and they took offense to that. Sometimes it would be just as simple as that. Sometimes it would be, just other situations. And then we would have these lynchings where just a mob ruled execution, typically for no reason. And the courts, in some cases, wouldn't do anything about it because the judge and the sheriff might have been a part of the crowd in some cases. So it was, a very, very hard and dangerous time to live in. And 1896, the court case Plessy versus Ferguson didn't make things any better, because this Supreme Court case is going to rule separate but equal is constitutional, meaning as long as the same facilities are provided to the races, to the whites and to the colored people, that it is fair and it is all good. This is clearly, like, we know it now to be a clear violation of constitutional rights, but since the court found that it was not in violation of the 14th Amendment, they were able to uphold the Jim Crow laws. And yeah, facilities were separate but never equal, due to, quality, especially. So yeah, like if you go back to the water fountains, the white one is a lot nicer looking than the colored one, isn't it? So, as a result of all of these types of bad situations, during the late 1800s and early 1900s, we're going to see what is called the Great Migration. And this is African Americans moving to northern cities and out west in search of better opportunities, to escape poverty of the South, to trying to escape the discrimination of the South. And while it will certainly be better moving into the North and to the West out of the South, that didn't mean that these laws went away. There were Jim Crow type laws that were being practiced in some northern areas and western areas. So, it was better overall, but in certain places might not have been too much better. So in the North, there is still going to be racism and discrimination as well during the late 1800s, early 1900s. There's going to be a lot of confrontations with immigrants because they're both competing over jobs. And we're going to see segregation coming up in these cities that they're moving to also, because like the whole ethnic neighborhood and community type situation that we have going on in a lot of these northern cities like Philadelphia, New York, they have, the Italian neighborhoods, the Jewish neighborhoods. We're going to start having the development of the African American neighborhoods like Harlem, especially. That's going to be one of the big like hotbeds of African American community and artwork and music that comes out of the early 1900s. So yeah, like, though honestly that is a good thing because we get something that's purely African American culture, but everything else surrounding it, not exactly good. All right. Now we're going to see some leadership disagreeing on how to accomplish overcoming these obstacles. And we're just going to get a little introduction to this right now. So some of the people we're going to talk about, there are three. First is Ida B. Wells, and she is going to lead an anti-lynching campaign to the federal government. Congress is going to fail to make any anti-lynching laws, but she is going to bring awareness about this issue to the public. So people are going to start talking about it and be like, oh, this is really messed up, because, people are being killed for no reason 99.9% of the time. So it's going to be all over newspapers and magazines. People are going to be reading about it. So it's not any longer a Southern issue. It becomes a national issue, the anti-lynching campaign. All right. Then we're going to talk about Mr. Booker T. Washington. This guy, he would push for African Americans to gain equality through vocational education, through learning and gaining the ability to have higher paying jobs, gaining economic, monetary, money success. Yes, keep the group separated if you need to, but basically once the African American community gets more economic success, starts making more money, the social equality will follow because let's face it, people like money. So if it means you making money, you're more willing to work with people you may not necessarily like, right? That's kind of what his whole deal was. We educate ourselves, we make more money, we get the respect and equality that we want after we overcome this economic hurdle. Right? But then in total contrast to that, we have W.E.B. Du Bois. He believed that education meant nothing without the social equality first. So he is supporting political equality for African Americans before anything else. And he's actually one of the founding members of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And there's this organization is still around today. They're very powerful politically today. And like if there's any types of case of a legitimate racial injustice, they are at the forefront fighting legally to get that corrected. It's a very good organization to have on your side if something is a racial issue. So with the NAACP, the NAACP is going to be a big part of the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, like Martin Luther King. He is going to be working with them. We're going to see that with the Brown versus Board of Ed decision in the 1960s. It's all going to work out, and they're going to be a huge help in getting a lot of these bad laws and practices removed. Now, the fact that these early Jim Crow laws even came into existence is bad. There's no argument against that. And because they came in, we're going to see the next 50 years or so being a huge struggle that leads into what we know as the civil rights movement. And it is going to be just one of those truly awesome social and political times where you see right overcoming the wrong. All right, that is where we're going to end today. And when we come back next time, we will be continuing our discussion with this whole late 19th, early 20th century transition into the modern America that we have. All right, come back next time and I'll see you later.